as we start season number 14. Yes, I said 14. Then Mr. Bob Page, nay Detroit, and now a full-time, for the most part, full-time Florida resident after a pit stop over in New York. And he's on the other end of our line, although he's not in Florida. He's on his way to Michigan, literally on the road. Hopefully, we're not going to cause a traffic accident here. Bob, how you doing?
Well, no, I'm sitting in a hotel. I'm not talking to you driving my car 85 miles an hour with semis passing me on the left and right. No. So
I thought you were on the road, literally on the road.
No, it's quite comfortable in my room. The air conditioning is on, and it's outside here. I know it's the same thing at Detroit. It's 102 degrees in this godforsaken state of Tennessee outside right now.
Well, you're coming up to Michigan. We're going to be 97 tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, and my daughter Kelly, whom you know, was telling me about that, and I said it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me. I mean, I live in Florida. I do spend some time there in the summer, and you get used to it. I work out sometimes in 105-degree heat index. I would much rather live through 5 hot Florida summers than 1 Detroit winter. That's the way I always put it.
Right. Well, we're starting season 14, and we had our old friend Ray Scott on the show a couple weeks ago to help celebrate our 13th anniversary. And Ray's got a book out, Bob. I'm not sure if you knew about that. I
do not know about that. No.
Yeah, he's got a book. It's kind of, and I think it's called NBA in Black and White, and it's kind of a combination of social justice stuff along with of course the actual NBA, his experiences, but it was also kind of set against the backdrop of what went on in the 60s with civil rights. And
that sounds really cool. I'll be back in Detroit. I was telling you before we started taping, I'll be back in Detroit quite a while. I suspect much of this summer. So I'm sure it'll be in all the local bookstores there. And I'll go in and check
it's out now.
Yeah.
I saw somebody showed a picture of it in the bookstore, that it's physically out there.
Yeah, we all go back a long way with Ray. Of course, I watched him play at Cobo with the Pistons when I was a kid growing up. And he's just, look, I mean, he's just, everybody knows this. Ray Scott is just a fine man. He's a fine man. Yeah.
Well, I've been after him for about 10 years to write a book. And he finally, and he said that when the, who's the gentleman who wrote the book with him? God darn, I can't remember his name.
I know it was a well-known. He wrote. I know he wasn't involved with the basketball books. Is what I remember the name from.
Charlie Rosen.
Charlie Rosen. That was it.
Yeah.
Charlie Rosen.
Oh yeah, he was a huge basketball guy, kind of on the periphery. He wrote a lot of books a number of years ago. Yeah, I think he's based in New York, actually, isn't he?
Yeah, you're right. And so Charlie called Ray a couple of years ago, and the phone call Ray said happened to be on speakerphone, and his wife, Ray's wife, could hear Charlie pitch this book idea, and before Ray could say anything, she said, "Yes, he'll do it." She said, "I've been wanting him to write this book. You're not getting any younger. Gosh darn it, because Ray's 83. You're not getting any younger." And Ray said, if the boss says I do it, then I'll do it. So he went ahead and wrote the book. And
now he's got another one in the works. He's got another one going too.
Did you want to have me on your show tonight, or did you want to talk about Ray Scott instead? That's up to you. It's strictly up to you.
When we have Ray on, we talk about you, so it all evens out.
I hope he says good things about me then.
Well, he was. Oh, of course, absolutely.
Right.
There's just before we went on the air, Al and I were talking about this whole Red Wings coaching search, and Al mentioned that Al thinks that Steve Yzerman might be biding his time. Well, we knew he wasn't going to move fast anyways, but Al thinks that maybe the reason why Stevie is biding his time is that he might be waiting for the assistant coach, John Cooper's assistant coach in Tampa.
Okay, that's fine. So let me ask you a question. If that's the case, how come for the last, what has it been? 3 weeks, 4 weeks? Stevie Kerr's top assistant on the Golden State bench has been the head coach of the Sacramento Kings.
Right.
So I don't understand that.
I don't know what the rules are. I don't know what the rules are in the NHL.
I don't either.
But I don't know. It sounds like a good theory. But then again, with Yzerman, who knows? Do you have any? I mean, there's so many. This is interesting, Bob, because there's so many experienced NHL coaches out there right now: Cassidy, Trotz, Tortorella.
Actually,
Um,
Cassidy's off the market.
oh,
Vegas hired him
Yeah,
today.
oh, did
yeah.
they?
Vegas hired him. I saw.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, okay, scratch him. And so this is an interesting time. Do you have any sort of feel like, or not? So I shouldn't say feel. What's your opinion? Would the team at this juncture be better off with an experienced guy? And by the way, I hate the word retread because I think that's so dismissive. Or would you think that it's better served to go with somebody like a Lalonde or somebody who's never coached an NHL team before?
I don't. All I'll say is this: one of my close friends in the business, Russ Mollahan, just retired last year as longtime director of the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Right.
And I was busting his chops because I wanted to see Blashill fired 2 or 3 years ago. And I said, if only we could possibly get Tortorella. He said, yeah, no chance, buddy. You got no chance to get Torts away from us. Well, guess what? He's not the coach of Columbus anymore. He is available. I mean, to me, there were just way too many games last season where the quotes afterward were the same. We didn't compete. We didn't show up. We didn't play hard enough to win. You got John Tortorella as a head coach. That's just not going to be a problem. And then you have people saying, well, no, Keith Gave, for instance, on Twitter all the time, a long-time Free Press Wings beat writer. So, oh, no, that's the wrong guy. You don't want a guy that tough with these sensitive young kids that they're trying to bring along. I don't know what to think. The only opinion that really matters is Steve Yzerman's, and he is so, as you well know, close to the vest. You don't know what the guy's thinking. You don't know what he's going to do. So we'll just wait and see. But I mean, I trust Steve Yzerman. I think we all do. So whatever guy he likes, whoever the guy is that he finally selects, fine with me.
Well, nobody knew who John Cooper was before Steve hired him, and look what Cooper's done. I think Cooper's going to go in the Hall of Fame, and especially if he wins the Cup this year, he's definitely going to the Hall of Fame. I mean, I don't know how you keep him out. And this roster is largely the roster that Yzerman built, and so I don't know how that makes him feel, if he feels any sort of pride in that, or if he feels like, gosh, I leave and a year later they start winning Stanley Cups left and right, but. It is his build, mostly his build.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, those are basically his players that Cooper's winning with. He's the guy who selected them. So, I'm really just not worried about the Detroit Red Wings at all. They already have, as we all know, some outstanding pieces in place. I don't know what to think of Alex Nedeljkovic yet. Sometimes he looks so good, and sometimes he looks so bad. Is he the goaltender of the future? Yeah, he could be. Might he not be? I don't know. I just don't know. But other than that, we all know about, if you follow the Detroit Red Wings, we all know about the young talent they have. And so we're going to let Stevie do his thing. Let's see what happens.
What about this kid Seider? I haven't seen a defenseman, Bob, in the NHL come in and be so NHL ready in terms of his smarts, his patience.
Well, you're not saying anything that everybody else hasn't said. When we were still doing our podcast with Eli and Denny, and they drafted him, I lightly complained. What I said about Seider at the time is that if Steve Yzerman likes Mo Seider, I like him too. But based upon what they were saying, it seemed to me that he could have waited maybe and drafted him anyway, instead of, spending such a high draft choice on the kid. But I'd never seen him play. I didn't know. And now we've seen him play, and he's real good. He's real good.
He might win the Calder Trophy as the Rookie of the Year, which would be, gosh,
no, that's a done deal. I watch a lot of road broadcasts throughout the season of the Wings games. You hear the opposing team's announcers, and they're just all raving about this guy. It'll be a big upset if he doesn't win, I would think.
Right, and I think they said it would be the first Red Wing to win the Calder since Roger Crozier, I think, 50 some odd years ago, almost 60 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. I know. Which is right, exactly, because the Red Wings have had a lot of good young players over the past. But no, I mean, Seider, and then of course, Lucas Raymond. It's nice they've got two building blocks. One is a forward, one's a defenseman.
And Nedeljkovic technically, was eligible for the Calder this year as well. So if he had a little better season than he did, and again, at times he was great, the Wings had 3 guys nominated. They could have had 3 guys nominated for the Calder. How's that for rebuilding?
But the nosedive that they did or made post All-Star break, I'll say, when they were flirting with, kind of flirting with playoff contention, 6 or 8 points out, albeit the teams they were chasing had games in hand, but then they just completely went down the drain. Is that a symptom of just the team just needed a new voice, that the coach just wasn't getting?
Absolutely. Sure. Absolutely. I think a lot of those guys probably quit on Blashill.
Mhm.
I mean, look, I've said this before. Jeff Blashill is a good guy. He's a really good hockey man. He's a good coach. He deserved this opportunity. He worked for it, but it didn't work out, and they should have fired him 2 or 3 years ago because the team wasn't playing hard enough every night. So you look at if you thought about the irony of this, you look at the fact that Blashill did not make the playoffs for 6 straight years and managed to keep his job until just recently, whereas Bruce Cassidy in Boston made the playoffs the same 6 straight years, and he got fired at the end of the season. So
look at Trotz. Look at Trotz. He got fired. Nobody saw that one coming either. Who knows? Maybe things go on behind the scenes that we're not aware of. But we're talking with Bob Page here on the Knee Jerks. I'm Greg Eno from my WordPress Out of Bounds blog, and Big Al Beaton is here with us as well. Let's bring Big Al in. What you got for Bob Page?
Well, why don't we switch sports, go to baseball, because that's been kind of a hot topic here in Detroit for all the wrong reasons. Tigers have a historically bad offense, surprisingly decent pitching, but we were being kind of sold coming into the season that this team would at least compete, saying the rebuild was over, kind of thing.
They sold me. I thought they'd play at least 500 baseball this year. But on the other hand, you start talk about them, Al, and you realize, well, I mean, all these amazing injuries they've had. And then what the hell has happened? I mean, it's incredible to me. The Clemens kid, I guess, finally got his first hit last night. And the reason he was playing is because Scope was, 3 for 16 coming in? Baez has been an absolute joke. Akil Baddoo didn't pan out. I'm not sure what the hell they saw in Tucker Barnhart to give him this kind of money. I mean, he's good defensively, but he hasn't made me forget about Johnny Bench. This whole thing is just an utter, absolute disaster. And I don't see any sign of it abating. And I've been saying for some time that Al Avila will be fired during the second half of the season after the All-Star break.
Wow.
It's just
and that's the follow-up then. That's who you think the scapegoat's going to ultimately be. It won't be Hinch. It won't be the hitting coach. It will be Avila.
Well, I mean, my guess is that, look, who knows how these guys really operate. But my guess is that Avila is the one, or Avila, as he actually pronounces it.
Right.
He's the one who goes to Chris Ilitch and says, I think we should do this. I think we should do this. And maybe Chris Ilitch says no sometimes, but usually he probably rubber stamps it. So the big mystery going back a few years to me will always be, who was the person who decided that a playoff contending team just a few games out of the final spot should be broken up almost overnight? It was like day after day, the next guy's traded, the next guy, J.D. Martinez gone for, and JV the whole way that went down. And there was still a lot of life left at that time, at least, and Ian Kinsler and Jay Up. And they just got rid of everybody. And I never thought they needed to do that. And since that time, this has been, just a complete tailspin for the franchise. But somebody's got to, I mean, Chris Ilitch isn't going to fire himself, I'll tell you that much, and they can't fire A.J. Hinch, this quickly. He, again, is dealing with a lot of injuries. So the scapegoat, somebody's got to be a scapegoat. You have to make a statement to the Tigers Nation and say, we're pissed off about this, and we're not going to take it anymore, and we're going to take strong steps to change this. Start with Al Avila.
Well, I think that it was fair to kind of say, look, let's see how this season indeed plays out. Firing somebody during a rebuild is a little bit tricky too, because it's hard to get people in here, or in any franchise that you're making a move. It's hard to bring a new guy in the middle of a rebuild, because a lot of seasoned guys, or guys who want to take a job like that, don't want to come in the middle of a rebuild. But so it was fair. And I even wrote a column back in the fall. I said, look, Avila haters must stand down, but it's fair now that we're coming out of this supposedly the end. Well, I shouldn't say the end of the rebuild, but toward the end of the rebuild, and to see things regressing. This offense, Bob, is
Yeah,
historically bad.
it may be time for a new rebuild then, right? How's that working out so far? And I was a guy who said, whatever it was, 3 years ago, when the Tigers were going to have the number one draft choice overall, and it looked as though they were going to take Casey Mize. I made it my business to watch him pitch for Auburn about 3 times, and I thought, well, he's a very good college pitcher, but I don't see that plus major league fastball that I'm looking for. A nice slider, pretty good stuff. And I just thought, I just don't see this guy as a number one. Now, of course, we haven't seen Riley Green yet. And I guess in fairness, they're going to have to bring him up and we'll take a look and see what he's supposed to be, because he's supposed to be great, they say. So maybe you don't panic then. And maybe you don't fire anybody and you come back next year and you try to sell Detroit Tigers fans and ticket buyers on, well, we got Riley Green now, and maybe you pick up a couple free agents. Maybe during the second half of the season, Baez gets his thumb out of his butt finally and does something, and Jonathan Scope, people like that. I don't know what to say. They're in a tough spot. And every time I see a Tiger game on television, which is, not that often, but every time I see a Tiger game on television, it looks like fans, for the most part, are just rattling around down there. I mean, they have to be taking a bath financially on this team.
Yeah, they're
and I want to tell you something else, too. Yeah. I want to tell you something else. So I was just recently in Detroit before I went back to Florida for a while. And now, again, I'm coming back to Detroit to hang out for a while. So then there, I go into, a couple of bars, a couple of restaurants, and they've got televisions up over the bars, as they do. I had it out. I was nice. I had it out with one of the owners. I said, do you realize the Tigers are playing right now? And you got like some kind of TV show up on your bar? Has anybody in this bar so far said, hey, Tigers will win, put the Tigers game on, we're in a bar? No. The interest is just really, really waning in this team, in this franchise. You would think that in a town like Detroit, with a franchise like the Tigers, anytime there's a game, every bar in town is going to have the Tigers game on every television, every restaurant. And every time I'm back in Detroit during the summer when the Tigers are playing, I don't see that. It's like, and apathy is just the worst thing possible, and that's what I'm looking at.
Well, I don't know if I necessarily share your view that Avila will be fired during the season, because that's just not the Tigers' style. Although I know they did do that with Dombrowski, but I think that was a little bit of a different situation, and that was a different owner too, by the way. But what I was going to say, what I was saying earlier, was that I think it's fair now. I'm okay now with letting the hounds loose now, the Avila haters loose, because I think it's fair now. If this is the result of what has been going on for the last 6 or 7 years, to come out with now this historically bad offense. And by the way, Bob, I was checking the free agent tracker to see who might be available in not only this offseason, but the offseason after the 2023 season. And there really isn't anybody that's really anyone to really write home about. There are a lot of guys who are in their mid-30s now. All the really good young talent is locked up. So I don't even know if there's any help in the free agent market. You're going to be shopping off the bargain bin again, which is what they've been doing.
Yeah, I know. And I want to say something else too. And maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just my age. And I think most people know how old I am. I have no idea how this happened to me, but I'm 70 now, and I've spent my life around this game. And so maybe I'm just jaded. And maybe the younger guys, who have a lot of the proverbial piss and vinegar in them, are still into it. But I sit down to watch even a Tigers game where I care about the outcome. Sit down to watch a baseball game, and my God, it's so slow. Pitch after pitch after foul ball after foul ball after walk after umpires missing pitches behind the plate that gives somebody the ball for. It's just, I find myself by the third inning thinking, is this all we are in the third inning right now? I don't think I want to watch this. So again, maybe it's just me. Maybe you guys don't feel that way. Maybe your listeners don't feel that way. Maybe it's just me. But I just don't find myself being as interested in it as I used to be.
We're talking with Bob Page here on the Knee Jerks. I'm Greg Eno from my WordPress Out of Bounds blog. And Big Al is here, of course. Al Beaton, let's bring Al back in. What you cover, Bob Page?
Yeah, you make a great point about the pace of game. Rob Manfred, who I think has been absolutely awful as commissioner. He's and these rule changes They're worried about the length of the game when it's more like it's about the pace of the game. If they could enforce a pitch clock and a few of these other things, or, keep guys in the batter's box. I mean, we're all old enough to remember when Mark Fidrich would could throw a complete game in under 2 hours. And now we're seeing 4-hour, 9-inning games. God forbid the playoffs happen. There's extra innings, and we're all up till 2 o'clock in the morning. So you nailed it about all this.
Yeah, I think, Al, we're seeing a lot of mediocre pitching. So this is, as a former umpire, let me tell you something. Strikes and outs make the world go round. And when you have guys nibbling out there all the time, and they're 3-2 counts, and the guys foul balls up. Now I know that Skubal obviously was hit hard and lost the last game. But when you have a kid with stuff like that, and he's always around the plate, and then you have an opposing pitcher, let's say, who's the same way, man, that makes the game snap a little bit. Guys are throwing strikes, batters are swinging, they're putting the ball in play, outs are being made, innings are rolling along. I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm in a hurry or anything like that, but maybe it's just too much baseball over the years for me. I don't know what it is. It's very difficult for me to sit down and watch these games start to finish.
I want to get
just to follow up about. Let me follow up real quick,
yeah,
Greg.
Yeah, sure.
You mentioned Skubal and starting pitching. Do you think in today's game, starting pitching is becoming more and more devalued, which would also kind of kneecap the Tigers building around young starting pitching when starting pitchers are only going 5 innings nowadays?
It's ridiculous. It's just totally absurd. I mean, if you got a guy who's really good, he's getting people out, why is he on a 100 pitch count? Why does he have to come out after the 7th inning? How come he can't throw 120 or 130 pitches? You really want to take a chance on, unless you got a real stud in the bullpen, take a chance on bringing somebody new in. It's called, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And this is what they do. And then, of course, somebody invented this whole opener nonsense, where you got a guy go 1 inning and bring in somebody else, and he goes an inning. And the game has changed. Life changes. The games change. It just is what it is. But I just don't, again, maybe I'm just old and jaded now, and I'm willing to consider that. But it doesn't seem the same to me, and I don't enjoy it the way I used to.
Well, I want to ask you this question because this tangentially has to do with pace of play, but some of the listeners may not know that Bob, in a previous life, pursued an umpiring career. So I want to give you the opportunity to comment on the it's not an idea; it's an actual thing. The robotic umpires calling balls and strikes, yay or nay?
I've been predicting this for years. A big yay. Umpires are dedicated professionals. They work hard. But the funny thing about it is when you look at fans and we media people, we are willing to accept the physical errors made by players. Okay? That ground ball to second, game should have been over, but the guy booted it. That's just part of baseball. Right. But we're not willing to accept officials' errors, which is why in all 4 of our major sports, we have all these replays now and everything. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing more infuriating than seeing bases loaded, with 2 out, let's say, as an example, 3-2 pitch, and here it is, and it's a beautiful slider right on the outside corner for strike 3.
Right.
But the umpire calls it a ball.
Yeah.
And the guy walks to first base anyway. The run scores, the inning continues. So there's been no question, as I said, in my mind for years, that we are going to be going to this. We are using it, in the minor leagues apparently successfully right now too, because virtually everything in baseball happens right there at home plate. In the NFL and football, you got 100-yard field, and the width of the field and stuff happens constantly all over the field. So it's a little more different to have, maybe as sophisticated a computer system there, but they're going to use it in baseball. There's no question they're going to use it in baseball.
And also, real quick, and this is also having to do with baseball, only because the player involved is a baseball player, and that is Eduardo Rodriguez, who I'm not sure if you saw this.
Well, of course I saw it, and I don't know what to think. I mean, he's having problems with his wife. Does that mean his wife's having an affair with somebody back then? He's got to go down there. I don't know. Obviously, this guy's making millions of dollars a year. To forego his salary and take a leave of absence from the team, there's something serious going on in his personal life. And
Well,
we've all
right,
had problems in our personal lives. So all I
right.
got to say is I
Yeah.
just hope the best for the guy, and I hope he works this
Of
out
course,
somehow.
that goes without saying.
Yeah.
But my point in bringing it up is that when was the last time? And I know you read. I presume that you go online and read the Detroit papers online. I presume
Okay,
you
every day, both. In fact, I
now.
subscribe to both. I subscribe to both the Free
Right.
Press and the News. I read them
So
both every
when
day.
was the last time? When was the last time any of these clowns, any of these knuckleheads in Detroit broke a story? Once again, here this is another example. The Eduardo Rodriguez thing, as far as I know, was broken by the New York Post. I think John Heyman broke it.
Yeah,
When do these guys, Bob? When do these
you're
guys?
getting into a whole you're getting into a whole different thing now. And of
Well,
course,
right. I
I'm
want to get
happy
a
to
hold of
talk
it.
about it. Yeah,
When are these guys going to get? It drives me mad that we've got
right.
all these writers that follow this team, and we have to rely on the New York Post to break a story about what's going on here.
It's man, it's not and guys, it's not only that about breaking, news stories. It's about really having the guts to tell it like it is and take on the owners of Detroit sports teams or people who are just messing this up. Detroit traditionally, I don't have to tell you, has been one of the great sports towns in the country, and now it's one of the very worst because the teams are just so awful. They're just so bad. And I remember when I first went to New York in 1988 to go to work at MSG, there was a guy named Harvey Ayrton writing for the New York Post at the time. Later on, went to the New York Times, and he wrote his column in the Post that day. He did everything but call George Steinbrenner a child molester. He just raped Steinbrenner. So I walk into the press room for dinner that night. I didn't see Harvey there. Went into the press room, and just business as usual. And I'm thinking, if I'd walked into the press room in Detroit and somebody'd written a column like that, you could hear a pin drop. The tension would be unbelievable. So I sat down with a couple of guys and I said, hey, by the way, anybody see Ayrton's column today? And they said, yeah. It just wasn't it wasn't a big deal. But my point is that you just don't have any gutsy, tough writers in Detroit who are calling people out. And it pisses the fans off, because the fans are angry themselves at what's going on, and they want someone who reflects their viewpoint, frustration, and anger.
Right.
I don't know what it is. I don't know why the TV stations in Detroit insist upon still having, and he's a nice guy and a very talented, very bright, very creative pro. But Bernie Smilovic on instead of, like the late Al Ackerman, who'd be on ripping the Tigers to shreds right now. I don't know why the TV stations do what they do. I guess the only guy, a regular radio guy, who tells it like it is Valenti, from what I understand. I don't listen to his show. I don't know. And since Drew Sharp passed away, they haven't had any tough writers either. Go figure. I don't know. You know what, fellas? I'm retired. I'm out of the game. Whatever it is, what it is.
Yes.
Big Al, what you got for Bob Page?
Yeah, just to, I will say, to kind of follow up with that, with the talking about do you think that they're trying to be, do you think it's access? Do you think that they worried just about losing access to the teams by being controversial? Because I remember a couple years ago when the Astros, Justin Verlander asked the Astros to remove the Free Press beat writer because Verlander didn't like him or something like that. So you think it really just comes down to access journalism?
This is why you basically have unions such as the Baseball Writers Association of America. You can't do that. Just because you don't like what a guy wrote, you go to the team and you say, ban that guy from the locker room. You can't do that. Marge Schott tried to do that in Cincinnati when Rob Parker was working down there and some other people. I mean, you can't do that. They say never get into a pissing match with a skunk. You don't, if you try to do this with writers and media people, if you try to ban them for what they're saying, you're going to have a lot of big problems. They just, you've got to slough it off sometimes. It's just part of the game. Now, in Verlander's case, I really can't remember the specifics of it. So I don't know what pissed him off, what the guy had written about him, maybe about his personal life, or something. But I mean, this is a slippery slope you're walking on when you start trying to ban media people from the press box. Yeah,
right. There's some questions, Bob, that some folks on Twitter wanted me to ask you. One of them was from this user.
I'm glad. I saw some of that. I have so much fun on Twitter.
Yes.
Eli and Drew Eli and Drew asked me to join Twitter 3 years ago. I never ever wanted to be part of this. Never. I thought it was just the domain of dumb jocks and rappers. But they wanted me to promote our. Yeah, it is that as well. And the illiterate and semi-illiterate, and they wanted me to promote our then podcast. And I thought, all right, I'll join Twitter. And I really like it. I enjoy the exchange that I have with people.
Yeah, I like it too. I enjoy it as well.
Yeah,
and
you're on more than I am. Yeah.
And this gentleman, Robbie, he's a transplanted Michigander. He's in Arizona now, and he says he wants to know if you could give us some examples of maybe 3 of the athletes in Detroit, specifically Detroit, that you dealt with, that you thought were just terrific to work with, and 3 that were just miserable.
Gibby was very tough. Gibby was and I'd known Kirk Gibson since he was 18 years old at Michigan State. His behavior was so boorish. I had to call him on it 2 or 3 times. It was just, he was an embarrassment. We had a union thing at Channel 7 when I worked there. And the union stipulated that anytime we took a camera crew out to do a story, there had to be an audio person. So one of the audio people that we used, News and Sports, was a woman. And she was assigned to the Tigers locker room one day. Okay. And this is, back when it was all this stuff was starting, should women be in the locker room, so on and so forth. So I had to, I took her into the locker room, and I was standing at the door, and Gibby stands up and yells out, "All right, you guys, everybody cover up. There's a fucking slit in here." Can you imagine referring to a woman as a slit and loud like that? And he would come out of the locker room after games, blow past kids seeking his autograph, looking like something the cat dragged in. Like he hadn't shaved in 4 days, with sandals and sloppy jeans and a T-shirt. So, I know he's changed. He's mellowed. We all are older. He's mellowed. So, he was, his first name that comes to mind. Of course, Russ Thomas was just evil. And, we used to have it out. I remember, walking out of the Lions interview room one time, and he looks down at me, big former Tagger. He says, "I see the cheap those cheap shots you're taking at me all the time. You're not going to get away with that bullshit." I hope I can swear on your program. I'm quoting people. I'm swearing myself.
Yeah.
And I said, "You have a standing invitation to come on my show anytime you." And the show I did with Ron Cameron. "I'll cancel any guest at a moment's notice and bring you on so you can defend your record here." So there were certain guys, who just, Eddie Murray, the Lions kicker, just hated what I was saying about the team, although it was the truth, and he hated me. Steve Yzerman was unhappy with me on any number of occasions. He was on live with me one morning on WRIF in the mid-'80s, and I was going on about how bad the club was. But the most flustered I ever saw him, he says on the air live, he says, "Well, you know what, Bob? You're a very poor sportscaster." So,
oh my God! Well, you get Stevie upset. You're really doing something.
Yeah.
How about some of your favorites?
Yeah, and when I was a kid breaking in, K-Line was very difficult to deal with. Very difficult to deal with, and a couple other guys like that were too. There were so many. And Fidrich, when he was breaking in, there could be a real obnoxious little ass. There were so many good guys over the years. It's what a shame that Bob Lanier just died. And he was, he certainly was one of them. And I'm almost hesitant to go much further because I know I'm going to forget, the guys. I mean, I loved Walt Terrell. He was just such a stand-up guy, and kind of, I remember doing a TV interview with Walt, starting to do one in his locker when he pitched for the Tigers. And he said, "Bob, wait a minute, I got to throw this out." He put his cigarette out. And I said, "Oh," he says, "Look, I know I'm a role model for kids. I never, ever want to see any young fan see me smoking cigarettes." There just was something. Trammell was a great guy. Lance was great. Morris was weird, and
Mhm.
I mean, Jack was and is a very strange guy. But it was a lot of fun. It just was all those years that I worked in Detroit before I left for New York, and all the various personalities and stuff. And now it's very sad for me. It's very bittersweet because it seems like it was a long time ago. And
What
so many
about
people have known me.
what about Jim Campbell? What was your relationship like with Jim Campbell?
Not good, not
Uh-huh.
good. Because again. So one time, all right, there's this guy, and he's got a big petition drive going in the upper deck of the center field bleachers, right? Because he's pissed off at the Tigers and how bad the club is and everything like that. So let's have this guy on,
Mhm.
And so we set up this complicated live shot. I'm up in the bleachers, and I interview this guy with a bunch of fans standing around. And I said to him in closing, I said, well, is there anything else you'd like to add to the displeasure, with the fans in the team? He said, yeah, there'd be a whole lot more fans signing this petition if Jim Campbell's name was on it to fire him. And Campbell, with his usual seat at the rear of the press room, was sitting with some of the other executives watching the whole thing live on TV. And when I got down to the press room after I did that, he was not real happy with me. He was a dour, sour, uptight individual who just didn't change with the times and didn't understand the direction his beloved game was going.
Right, that's for sure. As a layperson from the outside, you could tell that as well.
Yeah.
Al, anything you want to do? I mean, I got one more for Bob, but I'll let you go if you got one more for him.
No, go ahead, because I know Bob's wants to go to dinner. I don't want to be the one to blame because because the man is starving, Greg. So
well, actually, that's true. You're using it as an excuse, though. You just were put on the spot, and you failed miserably. You couldn't come up with anything.
I do have one. Any regrets from any of your? Do you have any regrets to things that you should have asked or didn't ask from your career doing interviews?
Oh my God, that's the kind of thing you guys should have given me 24 hours to prepare for. It really is. I would say right now, the biggest regret that I've had in the last few years is what happened to our podcast. I think that the podcast that Eli and Denny had for 2 years was probably, and I don't mind saying this myself, damn it, I don't mind, was probably the best sports talk show that Detroit has had.
I would
and
agree.
We really didn't pull any punches. And it's just one of those things where, Eli just flaked on us. He just flaked on us. I love Eli. He's still, one of my best friends in the business, certainly. Yeah. And he just didn't want to do it anymore after 2 years. I said, what's the matter with you? What do you mean it's a great show? Why don't you want to do it anymore? But he just kind of flips from project to project like that. So Denny and I were, very disappointed that the show came to an end. And I think we also realized at that point, given, our ages, Denny's 76 now or whatever he is. I said, that was it. That's it. That was our last gasp in broadcasting, and nothing's going to happen for us ever again. And Eli's not going to be on the air again, although I guess he does a little guest shot on Monday afternoon with Drew or something like that I don't know how many people listen to. But anyway, so that's probably the most disappointing thing that's happened to me, from a professional standpoint in the last few years. I wish we were still doing the show. We were starting to make a little money, really starting to get a terrific following for a podcast, and all of a sudden, poof.
Yep. Did you have any notion? You mentioned Eli flitting from job to job, but did you have because of course he started this whole thing, the podcast.
Yeah.
Did you have any inkling? Did you have any inkling, Bob, that it was going to be a short-term run, or were you under the impression this was going to be a long-term thing? Okay.
He when we started this thing, he said if we could ever get to a point with this show where we got 10,000 downloads a show, we can make some money on that. Right. We get to 10,000 downloads real quickly on the show, quickly. And we never were making a lot of money on it. We made a little bit of money, but not much. Yeah. It was just fun. We had so many laughs. And because we know everybody, we got all these great guests that come on. But the thing about it is that, Eli is a real sales whiz. He has his own, and has for years, his own advertising company and stuff. So he's got all these sponsors, and he still lives in Detroit. So he has more contacts there than I do anymore, certainly. And for us to continue that show without him And it wouldn't have been as good a show without Eli. Let's
Yeah.
face that too.
Yeah.
I would have had to move back to Detroit and try to sell advertising time and juggle with the guests. And Eli was kind of a buffer at times between Denny and me because we didn't get along sometimes. So it just wouldn't work. It just didn't work. So that was it. So that's me. I am retired.
Would you have rather have never
But you
done?
can still follow me on Twitter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. By the way, to do that, you just Bob's handle there is at Bob Page Sports. Would you rather, Bob, not have done the show at all?
No.
Done it for a couple years okay.
No, because you know what, how that worked, Greg? I had been gone from my hometown of Detroit for so long at that point. I moved to New York in 1988. That there's a whole generation of younger sports fans coming up in their 20s and 30s. They had no idea who I was. They'd never even heard of me before. And so they were exposed to me. And for some, that was a real good thing. And for some, they didn't like me too much, having been exposed to me. So no, it was great. I mean, I loved the show. I loved the show. And I think Denny did too. And it's just, oh, well, you got to move on, don't you?
Yeah, that's is what's Denny doing, by the way? Do you keep in contact with him or
no? Well, Denny, Eli has lunch with Denny once in a while. Eli and Denny were close friends before the show started. Denny and I were never close before the show started. We were friendly. We knew each other obviously a long time, but no. So we don't chat. So Denny is back now that the pandemic, has certainly lessened, and he's doing his appearances at card shows, and he's being Denny McClain. And he's thinking about what he wants to do. I guess he's been talking about maybe, like most people in Michigan, come to their senses eventually and move to Florida. So he's been talking about maybe, going down to Boca at some point. I don't know. That's the last I heard from Eli, and the last we spoke about Denny was probably, I don't know, 4 or 6 weeks ago, something like that. So Denny's doing much better. It was a terrible blow when his wife Sharon died.
Yes.
And, so he's, kind of going it alone now and doing the best he can, which is what we're all doing.
Right. That's for sure. Well, Bob, thanks for being here. Thanks for doing this. We had a lot of fun as we knew we would. And we'll definitely, we continue, you and I continue to go back and forth on Twitter almost on a daily basis. So we'll see you there. And if you want to follow Bob on Twitter, just look him up at Bob Page Sports. And we'll see you soon, my friend.
Always a pleasure, boys. Thanks for having me on.
Take care, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.